Paranormasight was a pretty cool and charming horror visual novel, so I decided to pick up the sequel in the summer sale. The sequel is charming as well, but I kind of expected more, given the game's high rating on Steam. On the other hand, I was tricked into paying €50 for Witch on the Holy Night based on its high ratings. And it was okay, I guess, but I am not sure what the people praising it to heaven are smoking. Point being that the binary rating scale for novels mostly read by die-hard fans is perhaps not something to be trusted. Anyhow, Paranormasight 2 takes place in the 80s, where trouble is brewing on a small island as a number of different groups gather there in search of mermaids, some of the groups being somewhat violent. If that was not bad enough, then there is a curse on the island threatening to erupt and cause major problems. Just as in the first game, expect conspiracies and wackos killing each other with various curses. It is a fun setting and just up my alley. The game have 4 different protagonists and the chapters are unlocked continuously as you play, but you can decide the order to go through the chapters. If we start with the gameplay aspect, then there are some very minor puzzles, but these are so rare that they are barely worth mentioning. Also at times the game will ask you questions to see if you have kept up. It's like homework and just as fun. This forces you to go into the lore sections to find the answer. I could honestly live without this. The game allows you to spin the camera around 360 degrees, which is nice and charming, but I am not desperate enough to call that gameplay. There is also very little here to interact with in the environment. Most of it will simply be marked as surroundings, so please do not expect this to be a point-and-click adventure game. The game is the most interactive in the beginning and at the end. In the beginning there is a diving minigame, which you then never touch again. And at the end you have to do various things to unlock story paths. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's observed what the game expects you to do. And I bet that most people just follow the guide. I certainly did. All in all, this is a visual novel and nothing else. That being said, it is a very pretty visual novel with high production values. The artwork is really charming and the 360 view certainly helps to bring this setting to life. The music is nice as well. So if we then get back to the story, then I have mixed feelings. If we start with the good parts, then I found it to be charming to follow these teenagers on the island playing Scooby-Doo in search of mermaids. It's a nice and comfy setting which is well fleshed out throughout the story. The characters are well portrayed as well and have some nice dynamics between them. The setting feels well thought out, and someone who cared have definitely worked on the lore of this setting. This is a game with a big focus on lore. The characters will go on and on about mermaid lore and local legends, and they will constantly update the in-game Wikipedia with even more details. Typically, an author will share the lore in very small pieces to ensure that the story keeps on going with a reasonable pace. This is not really the case here, and there are chapter after chapter packed with mermaid lore. Now, there is something charming about this level of mermaid autism, but that is up to a point. And I think that this game reaches that point and then keeps on going. The result is really terrible pacing. And I question if the non-linear storytelling was a good idea here. With this much lore dumping, the author really needs to be in charge of the pacing, which is not the case when the player gets to select the order of the chapters. It was a while ago that I played the first game, but I remember that game having constant plot twists and curses being thrown around to keep the tension up. There were always a lot of emotions flying around as well, and the plot was personal for all the main characters. It was certainly melodramatic and silly and somewhat cheap, but it was fun nonetheless. Here, not so much. Less things are happening in general, and the story is much more mellow and slow-paced. Avi and Yumeko in particular have very little going on, and there is not that much emotional investment from them. It makes these characters feel underutilized, and Avi in particular does feel like a literal tourist. A slower pace doesn't have to be a problem, of course. I am an enjoyer of slice of life shows after all. But then I think you need to play up the comedy, the romance, the emotional aspect of the story to make it engaging. Not just the mermaid lore dumping. There is also a lack of an interesting main villain. I don't want to go into spoilers, but it was so predictable that I thought for sure that it was just a misdirection. But no, it was just as predictable as it seemed. Perhaps I am sounding a bit nitpicky, but I think it's fair to expect more from a narrative of a visual novel. Many games get away with poor storytelling due to the gameplay, but that is a crutch that a visual novel can't really rely on. The pacing in particular is something I believe a visual novel really needs to get right. Many visual novels ends up relying on melodrama to keep the player engaged.
What are you even saying, you nasty toilet clogging bitch?
And while it is silly, it does work. And I would much rather read a silly, melodramatic visual novel than a boring, slow-paced visual novel. All of this being said, I still enjoy this game for the most part. It was a nice and relaxing visual novel to read. It is well worth a try if you are interested in visual novels. But it is not something I expect that I will remember 10 years from now.